And now we have Mr. Steven Lee, the Marketing and Export Development Manager from the European Community. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Stephen Lee. I'm from the Private Sector Development Programs as part of the European Union's program here in Egypt to promote the private sector. A lot of what I've heard in the last 2 days, I would agree with Mr. Silverman that it hasn't necessarily been focused enough on the requirements of the marketplace. We had a very interesting discussion yesterday about the role of cotton, the role of textiles, and the role of apparel goods. And I think that if we were to more closely focus upon the needs of the marketplace, then maybe some of these struggles that take place between the role of cotton, the role of textiles, and the role of ready-made garment production might be more easily solved. I was going to make a rather long presentation, but I thought I'd keep it nice and short. Basically, our organization has a group which is called a strategic marketing group and works increasingly closely with a group of ready-made garment and textile companies. We have been working since last year, and we look forward to working until the end of our program, which is next year, 2001, towards the end of next year. The major activities that we've undertaken so far have been two. One was called an Export Focus Germany, which took a series of your products to the German marketplace. And the feedback that we've had so far is that we've identified 18 German companies as potential importers, and they've actually received samples and are in the process of receiving prices. 65% of the identified companies are already interested in sourcing from Egypt, and there is a correspondence and exchange of samples going on with a series of other companies in Germany also. The second program is called Export Focus Europe, and that was undertaken with 9 companies. And the idea there was to do an audit, a technical audit of the companies, and then to match the capabilities of those companies' products to the European marketplace. And it's the findings, the interim findings, that I would like to share with you today. I'm going to give you a few figures as well. I was going to use slides, but I'm going to try and keep this short. The European market for apparel in 1998 was $65 million. Of this, and it's not a very healthy statistic, but I'm sure most of you are already fully aware of it, Egypt showed that was less than 0.5%. The 3 largest markets, which account for 60% of the total market demand, are Germany, UK, and France. And if we extend that by another 3 markets, Italy, Holland, Belgium, and Luxembourg, this goes up to 80%. Therefore, our focus becomes rather clear. Whilst the market investigation looked at the whole of Europe, the consultants' finding were that Eastern Europe, which we'd also thought might be a potential market for Egyptian products, was found not to be a market. They are a competitor at this stage. They consider that in another 5 years, perhaps Eastern Europe may be a marketplace, but not for the present. Who are the potential customers of Egyptian garment exporters? It is a well-established trend all over the European Union of the increasing share of sales held by the larger clothing retailers at the expense of the independent stores. Thus, clothing exporters are being faced with fewer and fewer but more powerful purchasing organizations. One result of this concentration of buying power is that the downward trend on clothing prices of the last decade will continue. We've broken the marketplace down into basically 4 segments. The top 2, top and upper middle, are supplied by factories within the EU, as well as those located at close quarters in Eastern Europe. The volume share is less than 40% of the total, while the value share is around 40%. The remaining 2, and I think these are the ones that are of interest to the Egyptian companies exporting to the European Union, are the lower middle, which represents the largest segment of the marketplace at 40% by value and well over 40% by volume. This is sourced principally at the moment from the high volume distant markets of Asia as well as from the Mediterranean basin. The last segment, the bottom segment, is sourced from the same countries, but its share of the total market by value is estimated 20%. The supply trend is to move the garment manufacturers closer to the source of the raw materials. And this was something which maybe you're all aware of again, but it seems to me that this is where Egypt has a comparative advantage which maybe isn't apparent yet. But because of the change of the marketplace, and I think it was Professor Hannah, what's her name now, sorry, Professor Harold Dean made this point very eloquently, that because of the change of the demand of the buyers to more frequent purchasing and the frequent change of styles, that this is going to mean that the supply is not just, that supply of the apparel has to be located more closely to the companies making the textiles. Now this is an obvious point, but one which I feel does bode well for the future of the European, of the Egyptian manufacturers, if you can start to supply textiles to the requirements of the apparel manufacturers. A further encouragement to the process of moving garment production close to the source of material supply are the regulations covering Euro 1 certificates of origin. This determines that an Egyptian export order can enter the EU duty-free, providing the garment textile is also sourced from Egypt or from a country enjoying similar duty status to Egypt. In the USA, and our focus as an organization is upon developing exports to the EU, but in the USA it is forecast that within the next 10 years, traditional retailing will account for only 2/3 of retail sales as compared with 3/4 today. In other words, discount stores, catalogs and e-commerce will take up the slack. This trend will also be felt in the EU over the coming years. The implication of this shift will mean new manufacturing and distribution strategies.
Mr. Steve,
yes.
Will you repeat this again?
Certainly. In other words, the nature of retailing or the nature of the organizations that are buying your products is changing. In the USA, it is forecast that within the next 10 years, traditional retailing will account for only 2/3 of retail sales as compared with 3/4 today. Discount stores, catalogs and e-commerce will take up the slack. This trend will also be felt in the EU over the coming 3 years. The implication of this shift will mean new manufacturing and distribution strategies. I'd like to talk about conditions of market access. In fact, Professor Geraldine covered the ACT, Agreement on Clothing and Textiles, in great detail, so I think I'll pass over that bit. Labeling, and again I'm referring purely to the European Union now. Labeling, whilst not a legal requirement, a fiber content label is required by the retailers. Fabric care labels, i.e. cleaning instructions, are however a legal requirement. Various other labeling requirements are being introduced on a voluntary basis, in particular the Ecotex Standard 100 labeling scheme. This is aimed primarily at the promotion of reduced water pollution. The EU markets for garments is strongly influenced by seasonal changes in weather and in fashion. This can mean range changes anything from 2 to 10 times per year. This can mean range changes due to the quick fashion cycle. The lead time is becoming shorter and delivery dates should be nearer. In addition, order quantities tend to be smaller and style variations are more frequent, which requires production flexibility and planning efficiency. This reinforces the point I made earlier, that in fact that buyers wish to move their production to countries which can offer both apparel production and of the intermediary product. Retailers impose price points on the garment manufacturers as constant innovation is needed by the garment producers, especially those supplying the lower middle market segment, by making changes in the styling, colors and fabrics. This indicates the emerging demand for design and development of in-house collection, as Mr. Bishara knows too well. The manufacturer's role in the field of product development and design is becoming bigger. The current importer is considering the manufacturer as a source of new styles and designs, not only as a producer. This is a new competitive advantage, a value-added service. It is not only for creativity and fashion, but also for cost savings when you consider that a designer rate per hour in Germany is anything from 75 to 100 Deutschmarks. This concept is the basis of success of the apparel trade leading countries such as Turkey. Each garment manufacturer wishing to sell to the EU must draw up a unique selling proposition. In other words, in order to approach the market with a view to trying to be good at supplying all types of knitted products for all types of men's and ladies' woven products will be rejected by many potential buyers as lacking in focus. Be prepared to choose which segment of the market and with which products you have a comparative advantage. And this should form the basis of your USP. In other words, the buyers are losing trust in companies which offer themselves as being a jack of all trades. The buyer is only considering the manufacturer with a specific product market segment orientation. Large number of the EU buyers source garment imports on a CMT and OPT contract. To sell on this basis to the EU is an acceptable strategy in the short term. However, in the medium term, preparations should be made to prepare your company with the capability to target full design make-up buyers. This will produce a more profitable future and remove your company from the vagaries attached to competing purely according to the international cost of labour. Up-to-date manufacturer should work on a full price product concept, not just trying to sell his minutes of operation. Again, this is the need for design facilities. Our organization, as I said earlier, is working very closely with a number of companies in the ready-made garments and we hope in the textile area. We're working, we have a manager for our group and they are very the manager of our group is Context Consultancy, and it's run by Karim Shafai and Amal Mullah. And they have put in place a very challenging work program for this year. And I'd like just to go through it rather briefly, just to give you the main highlights. The first step is that we wish to develop sales in Germany, the UK, and Italy. The first part of this activity will be to organize inspection visits by buyers from each of these markets, be followed by a market visit by the Egyptian garment companies to meet buyers. As a complementary activity, the Strategic Marketing Group is organizing participation at Herren Mode Woche. This is the biggest apparel event in Europe, and I'm sure you're all aware of that. In preparation, the SMG will provide access to designers to accompany the company, to advise the companies on the preparation of appropriate samples. The final phase will be an inward buyer's mission where buyers will be brought from the three main markets to meet the Egyptian manufacturers to settle final details and place orders. The above activity will be undertaken as an integrated project with consultancy contracts issued according to country groups. Step 2 will be along the same lines to another or the same three markets. This will be organized later in the year with the intention of coinciding with Herren Mode Woche in February 2001. Step 3 will be a series of export market development activities for the apparel SMG companies designed to strengthen the companies to begin exporting. These will include the production of promotional materials such as company profiles and product catalogs, training for success seminars which will prepare the companies to develop a marketing plan and begin its implementation. In addition to covering marketing and export promotion relevant topics, this will also include country product specific workshops, up-to-date issues such as e-commerce, electronic data interchange and supply chain management. strengthening the export departments of member companies so that they can handle the demanding customer service requirements to international standards. And then also an interesting concept which is new for the PSDP is what we call, what our consultants call barefoot consultancy, to assist SMG members to solve day-to-day production problems and achieve cost effectiveness. And also the provision of competitor awareness information so that companies can remain aware of the latest changes taking place in their export marketplace. Finally, allow me to briefly outline some important principles for company participation in the strategic marketing group. Firstly, all potential companies will have to qualify to join the strategic marketing group. In other words, not just any company will be allowed to join. If the SMG managers do not think a company has potential, they will advise them accordingly. Please bear in mind there are other services available within the private sector development program, including the business upgrade, which can prepare the company strategically for exporting over a 12 to 18 months period. Participation in the SMG does not mean that a company joins us to participate in a trade fair or some other one-off activity. Please be aware that the SMG is offering integrated activities in the form of complete service packages. These will not only strengthen the company's ability to market their products in the EU markets, but also to win profitable export orders. The performance of the apparel SMG will be measured by one main criterion: the increase of exports of the companies that belong to the SMG to the selected target markets. The SMG is aiming to increase export sales by 10 million to the end of this year, $10 million US. In summary, let me just bring some key considerations for the apparel and textile companies here. First of all, please, some of these points might sound rather basic and fundamental, but we find in our dealings with companies that many of the companies do not have this information that I'm about to refer to. Know the market price for your product in your market segment. It sounds very fundamental and basic. A lot of the companies in Egypt, the majority of the companies that we work with, don't have this basic information. Introduce a system for product costing. How many of the apparel and textile manufacturers really know how to analyze their costs? Really know? Our experience is very, very few. Know your product's marginal costs for market entry purposes. The industry must be able to buy more home-produced textiles, produced at a competitive price and in designs that will attract foreign buyers using the right cotton sold at a competitive price. Introduction of a quality control system which can accommodate buyers' own quality and procedures manual. Something else which is really, really crucial now is put in place a management information system so that you as managers can make decisions based upon meaningful information. This means knowing your stock levels, your break-even levels, your reject levels, and so on. Many of the companies that we deal with don't know these basic pieces of information. Start looking at how production can be brought up to the best practice standards, and most importantly, start thinking about developing a system for design and product development. Despite the enormous challenges that are presented to the industry, there does exist a strong base from which to meet these and achieve exciting growth of exports to the European market. The PSDP's market export development component is ready as your partner to work hard, making best use of the available financial resources to develop sustainable export sales to the European Union. Please do get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.